Oh, wait. We got to change it up. We can't do good morning this time
Yeah,
because
what
you
are you gonna
called it
say?
out.
What are you gonna say?
Oh, man. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you are in the world. This is the Pickleball Effect Podcast. I'm Downtown Logan Brown.
I'm Braydon.
Let's get going, baby.
Way to switch it up, Logan. That was good. I think you covered your bases. But yeah, dude, today we have a special guest joining us from Pickleball Apes. His name's Tim. He's the product manager there. So we're gonna grill him on their company and Kevlar. So that will be a fun conversation. Then I want to dive into the new quiet category. So there's been a lot of chatter about the release of the first quiet paddle coming out. I did a lot of research there. I want to talk about what's going on there, and then we'll just finish with what's coming up in the pro scene in the coming weeks to finish off the year.
All right, game on.
Logan, we did it. We made it through Thanksgiving. I actually just barely got back from Spokane. Like,
You
I
almost did
literally
this
pulled
podcast from the car, huh?
pretty close. I pulled into my driveway 30 minutes before we hopped on here. But yeah, I made it
Family
back.
minivan.
In the family minivan. I never gave into the minivan. My sister has a minivan, but she only has one kid. I don't know why she pulled the trigger there, but
Put the
my wife's
dogs in
against it.
there, everything.
Do you have an opinion on minivans? How do you feel about those?
I mean, do I think they look great? No, but I mean, they've got to be like a great option. It's probably rides well. It's like easy access. You got plenty of space. So, I mean, yeah, my ego.
But are you
take
going
a
to buy
hit,
one?
but-
Are you going to buy one someday?
Well, we only want 2 kids. So I don't know if we necessarily need it, but I'm open to it.
You're open. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to do it. But maybe once this third comes in like
You
a
may
couple
need the
weeks,
room, man.
I'll change my mind. But yeah, dude, Thanksgiving was fun. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was different this year. I mean, unfortunately, my nephew got like super sick with the flu. So I think we might have mentioned it last time. I was really excited for the pineapple dish that's made by my wife's sister's mother-in-law. I know it's a mouthful, but that's the way it works.
That's who it was.
Yeah. And we didn't go over there this year on Thursday because our nephew was sick. And so we went to my parents' house instead to be with my brothers and hang out with them, which was a change of pace. We've been doing the same thing for 9 years, but it was still good. It was great.
Nice.
How was
Yeah,
Spokane? Spokane?
it was fun. Spokane. Yeah, we got there. We ended up going there Tuesday night. So there's this tradition. Every time I go to Spokane, I end up going there like once or twice a year. And my wife's family lives there. So one of her sister's husbands, are they still called my brother-in-law? I don't know.
I mean, you have to repeat that 1 second. No.
My wife's sister's husband. Is that my brother-in-law?
I think so. Yeah.
We had this little tradition as being, the son-in-laws that we go on a date without the rest of their family. We just hang out together. So we're hanging out, and we decided to go to the arcade for some high stakes arcade action. So we both put $20 on a card. Whoever gets the most tickets wins. Loser has to go streaking in the below freezing weather. That was the stakes. So we're playing. We're just doing head to head in a bunch of different games. He was, I'd get 10 tickets, he'd get 12. I'd get 8, he'd get 15. He was just nickel and diming me on all these little games. And then we get to Connect 4, like basketball Connect 4, and this was a little higher stakes. Like the winner got 50 and the loser got 25 tickets. He beat me 2 out of 3, so I'm in the hole. Things are looking good for me. I only got like $5-6 left, and I go up to the I don't know, the wheel of fortune or whatever. Like you pull down the lever and the big wheel spins, and it's like a 1 in a million chance to get that sliver for 1,000 tickets. I did it twice, nailed jackpot on the second try, got 1,000 tickets. Just buried them. It was game over. I just went and enjoyed, some skee ball after that, some just stuff you don't win tickets, just rubbing his face. And so I beat him. I got all the tickets. I bought a little Pokeball drink to use for Thanksgiving dinner, and he had to go streaking. So we're driving home.
Harsh.
We found a spot for him to do it. So
like a field with like cows.
It was just like a back road we went to. The main thing was just that I had to, we were going to send it to his wife and my wife of the video of him doing it,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's freezing outside, so it's not a pleasant run. But he did it. I wasn't sure if he was going to do it, but he took off the clothes. The headlights were on. I was filming. He ran out in front and did his thing, and then I snapped it to our wives, and were they were sitting at a table at home with all of their siblings, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of people at the table. My wife gets this video, and she's like, "Whoa, it's
Oops.
it's it's Ridge."
Yeah.
And so the video gets passed around to everybody. It was pretty funny.
Man, that's a harsh punishment. And I would have thought like, someone has to pay for a round of drinks, but you guys are like, nope, we're gonna go running naked through the streets.
Yeah,
See you
that
later.
was that was what came to mind. I don't know. That's what we ended up doing. But I thought I was gonna have to do it, but I
You
won.
got that jackpot.
Got that jackpot, baby. That was the luckiest spin of my life when everything counted. Yeah, that was Thanksgiving. Did the rainbow jello. That was
Saw that.
fantastic
It
as
looked good.
always. The but yeah, it was fun. Would do it again. But
Yeah, I
let's
need to get to Spokane. It looks nice, man. I got to get up to Washington at some point.
yeah, well, I played some pickleball. I was up there too. It was actually pretty fun. I played with a group of guys there I had met a year ago, but we played at a new location I had never played before. We went to the tennis facility for Gonzaga University tennis team.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it was this huge indoor building. They have, I don't know how many, it was probably like 6 or 8 tennis courts in here. It was huge, really nice. And we played with one of the assistant coaches. His name's Cesar, a really cool dude, really good at pickleball. Anyways, he got us in, and no one else was there, right? Like it was a holiday. And so they had some lines taped. It's a Selkirk area, right? So they pulled out the big $3,333 Selkirk net and played on that. But the surface was top tier. It just had the tape lines, and it was a lot of fun.
Wait, so Selkirk kind of sponsors a part of their court, like get people involved?
No, I don't think so. There's just a sales rep there who
Oh,
plays
okay.
with those guys a lot. I think he just hooks them up or gets them set up with Selkirk stuff. His name's Daryl. He's a super cool dude, but he had a ton of Selkirk paddles with him, a bunch of prototypes and stuff. And so I was seeing what they got in the works. They got some things. They're playing with some new concepts with their Halo line.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be a big bump up from what they have now. And so, but that was fun to see. He's a good player. He's a cool dude. But yeah, that was Thanksgiving. But let's jump into our segment with Pickleball Apes. So we have Tim here with us, and we're gonna get a better idea of Kevlar, just because they're like the brand that's kind of leading the way with Kevlar, and I want to get we invited him to get his take on how Kevlar changes things and just try to get people kind of a leg up on what's coming. I think Kevlar, we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. It's a new material, and just want to better educate ourselves and our listeners on this. So let's jump to our segment with Tim.
Come on down, Tim. Get the applause going.
Yeah, there we go. So Tim, thank you for joining us. Logan and I are super excited to have you on here with from Pickleball Apes. Tell us a little bit, your role with Pickleball Apes, and Pickleball Apes itself getting started. Give us the landscape there.
Okay, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having me today. I would say I'm helping Pickleball Apes on the mechanical engineering side, and we started this brand like probably 2 years ago. Start working on this, and I was involved in product design and material selection. So yeah, this is basically my role.
So you guys started designing paddles a couple of years ago. When did you launch the first paddle, the
So
PLE?
yes, I should say that we first launched this year. Like, it was like May this year, but we started thinking about creating the pedal just right after we were introduced to pickleball, which is end of 2021. So that's why I said 2 years. Yeah.
Nice.
So what prompted this to you? Like, were you not happy with other paddles out there? You just thought this was a cool opportunity to be entrepreneurial, or tell us about that.
Yeah, it's actually a good question. Yes, I remember Wyman and we used to have a conversation about why don't we create our own pedal for us at least? There's some things we'd like to improve, and he saw a lot of opportunity there, and this is basically how he approached me, saying like, I have mechanical engineering background, I can help him with a pedal design, and we started from there.
What were the things you didn't like out of the gate?
Yeah.
Sorry, say it again, please.
Yeah, of course. You were saying that you guys wanted to create a paddle for yourselves. Like there were some things you wanted to change out of what you had previously played with.
Yeah.
What were like the top things that you didn't like?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, we started playing tennis together back then, like 5 years ago, and we played tennis as a doubles partners. And when you come from tennis to pickleball, I don't know, me personally and him as well, we naturally have like this double-handed backhand, right? And back then there were like not that many pedals, elongated pedals, is how they call them right now. And even if we used to, like, they had the elongated pedals, not many of them actually utilize like the longer grip.
Yeah.
Right. So even it's long, the grip itself is short. And when I just started, I remember, like, it was 2 years ago, I remember I have like almost bruise here. I just hold the paddle with two hands.
Yeah.
And it just keep hurting me, And that was at least something. We were like, why don't you guys create something?
Just starting with that, yeah.
Grip? Yeah, and then we start searching. We realized actually there are limitations in USAPA. You cannot really create like 20 inches long. It can be 17 inches. Things go on. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll dive more into the shape of your first paddle here in a minute. But I like that. That's fun to hear. So one of the big differentiators for you guys is the use of Kevlar as a facing layer. I keep saying that you guys are the first company to use Kevlar in the face. Is that true? I want to check my facts there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that there was a company that used a Kevlar in the core for sure, right? And
yeah, I heard of Kevlar in the core.
Yes, it might not be that many who used in the face. At least I actually wasn't the one who really was searching for the market. It was more Lyman's side, but I believe I'm not familiar with anyone who used to have a Kevlar on the face.
Yeah. At any rate, I think you guys are the ones that popularized it, and it's starting to catch on. I am seeing more and more companies get paddles approved with Kevlar on the face. Just this weekend, I was playing in Spokane. There was a Selkirk rep who had a bunch of prototypes, and one of them was a Kevlar face. It looked just like your guys' as I had the blend. And so it's catching on. More and more brands are getting interested in the use of Kevlar in the face. And so I want to dive in to the properties of Kevlar, like why you guys chose it, how it's different from carbon fiber. I just think that this is a material that we're going to see more and more of, but I don't think too many people understand exactly what it is, how it changes the performance of the paddle, or how it, you guys, why you utilize it. So I want to dive into Kevlar for a minute and try to kind of get ahead of this trend and just help people understand what it is, why we use it. So let's just start with like the physical properties of Kevlar versus carbon fiber. Like, how are they different?
It's getting nerdy.
So yeah,
we're getting nerdy.
Yes. I see. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. So for Kevlar properties, yes. So when we just started, we obviously analyzed many materials, and as you might know, like any material has their own advantages and disadvantages, and we try to find something that can be good fit for pickleball. This is how we basically ended up like with a Kevlar. And if I say for like let's call it positive properties, or actually like advantages of Kevlar, of using the Kevlar as a face, I would say it should definitely be the like better elongation properties, which means slightly less stiff and less brittle. And also I would say that it has same strength or better strength than carbon fiber with a lower density itself. So density
it's a little
is
lighter.
Lower. It is lighter itself, but the strength is still there. And I must also say that Kevlar itself it has great, wear resistant properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And again, yeah. So as a positive, there are some negative things we faced with the Kevlar. One of them is, must mention, is there are challenges in manufacturing the Kevlar. So this is something, yeah, you need to think of.
Because it's different than Kevlar we would see in gloves or bulletproof vests or something along those lines. Is it just manufactured
Yeah,
differently for paddles?
it's actually manufacturing differently, and the material itself can, I would say, it's just a yield. It's something we never purchase a raw material for to make your product, right? There will be always some defects, and for now, yeah, Kevlar material, the yield for Kevlar material to make the pedals bars is lower compared to carbon fiber. So this is like some of the drawbacks for using the Kevlar material as a face of the
And
pedal.
you guys went with like a Kevlar carbon fiber mix. Did you mess with the full Kevlar face? Why did you go with the mix versus something else?
Yes, actually, yeah. We are using the mix, and we have some tests and experiments and prototypes with raw Kevlar. I would say, based on our testing results, that raw Kevlar itself and Kevlar mixed with carbon fiber, the properties and performance itself is very similar. It's almost the same. It's very different. The difference is so subtle. It's almost, you cannot really see that, right? And raw Kevlar, it's slightly more. It's more expensive, if I can say so. It's
Yeah, like your
basically more
yield's going to be
cost
lower out
involved.
of Kevlar. It's going to be more expensive
Yeah,
material, so you might as well blend it.
exactly. Yes, this is how we will try to keep it cost effective.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking of like materials I know that I'm familiar with for pickleball, there's carbon fiber and fiberglass. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but like based off your description, Kevlar is a little lighter. It's not quite as stiff, maybe a little more flexible, but it's still very strong, has a lot of similar properties as carbon fiber. So like, does like the stiffness kind of flexibility level of carbon fiber sit in between carbon fiber and fiberglass? Is that a good way to think of it?
Yes, it is. And carbon fiber, I must say, is slightly stiffer than Kevlar. Yeah.
And Logan, you noted in our last podcast that like the Pickleball Apes, like they have a little more muted feel to them. It doesn't feel quite as stiff. It's a little more plush, a little more easier to connect with. And it sounds like that could be the reason. But fiberglass is also known for being like poppier, more power, and a little less forgiving than carbon fiber. So do you think Kevlar sits in the middle? Like, should it give us more power than carbon fiber? Kind of like fiberglass does?
I wouldn't notice much difference in power actually between carbon fiber pedals and Kevlar and carbon fiber pedals, the mix of Kevlar and carbon fiber. But I would say it has slightly more like gentle touch. I would say it's softer. The Kevlar.
Yeah, that's like so interesting to me. Like I'm really glad you brought it up because it's all really timely. So on Thursday, I was playing with a group of guys. One guy that I've never played with before, former tennis player, he has the Pickleball Apes elongated paddle, and he was whipping it really hard, playing really well with it, loved it. I handed the one that you guys sent me to another friend of mine, and he was loving it. But I honestly thought going into it, because I'd done a little bit of research, but clearly I wasn't looking at the right stuff. I thought Kevlar was a stiffer material. So I thought we were feeling essentially what I would consider like less dwell time with the ball. Meaning the ball is just coming off the face at a faster rate instead of being absorbed by the paddle. And I'm not sure how much of that has to do with the core versus the face, but that's what I thought was happening. But you're essentially saying that Kevlar should be more forgiving. Essentially there should be more dwell time with the ball with a Kevlar, fully Kevlar or Kevlar mix.
Kevlar mix, yes. Kevlar mix and Kevlar itself, their properties are very similar. It's like in pedal performance, based on experience, it's almost the same. And yes,
So
Actually,
if it's
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, before you dive into that
Yeah.
thought, I'm like, if you keep saying like, oh, it's so similar. If they are so similar, then like, why go with Kevlar over carbon fiber? Like,
I think
That's why
he's saying
we
it's
did
similar to Kevlar, full Kevlar
that.
versus Kevlar mix,
oh,
right?
okay. But
Yeah,
you still
yeah,
get
right. Yeah,
you
Logan,
still
you're
get
right.
some of the other stuff we noted about. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're going to get into. We haven't really gotten to it yet, but I think you're going to tell us more about why even introducing Kevlar is important, right? We haven't really gotten to that point. Yes, it's a little bit more dwell time. We're going to get a softer feel to an extent, like it's a muted feel. Like, because I definitely felt like the material lended itself to not getting the vibrations. So I felt vibration dampening. I didn't know that I was getting a softer touch, but there's also this idea that Wyman threw out that you should be getting a longer, like the grit should last longer for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why, but maybe you could explain that aspect of it if it was a part of your decision making.
Yes, for the grid, actually, like in theory, because the Kevlar itself has better resistant properties, abrasive resistant properties, it should have a longer grid, like lifespan, if we can call that. But of course, in practice, it highly depends on a like player style, I would say, and on practice, the difference in the lifespan of the grid between Kevlar and other models, it's similar basically. There is no like breakthrough in this region.
That makes sense to me
You think?
because the grit is made with like a pill ply, right? Like it's kind of like an epoxy, like it's a glue almost. It's not necessarily the Kevlar that is the grit.
Correct. Yes, it's a pill ply process, so you apply resin on the surface, but even it also depends on the material, like beneath the surface, beneath the epoxy. So yeah, the process itself is similar, pill ply.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. So that makes sense. I appreciate you breaking that down. And it'll be fun to see Kevlar get into more people's hands and see what they say, and people start to get adjusted and feel for it. But I do think it's unique. I do think it plays different than carbon fiber. There's a lot of people that rave about your guys' paddles, and it's because it feels and plays a little differently than carbon fiber. A lot of people seem to like the touch and feel over it versus, because especially with thermoform paddles, it gives you that really stiff feel. And so Kevlar seems to soften that up just a little bit. Although the power wise, I almost feel like it's the same, maybe even a little more. If it's kind of hard to tell, that it's really close, like you said. But yeah, it'll be fun to see it hit the market more. But I also want, so last question on Kevlar before I want to talk about the unique shape of your PLE. But I think I've seen somewhere that you guys have some sort of patent related to Kevlar. And patents is like, seems to be a big topic right now. Like when Gearbox released their paddle, there was all these talk about the patents they have and how people aren't going to be able to replicate the paddles they have. And it seems like as more paddles come up, patents are being brought up along with the introduction of new technologies. And I want to understand, like, what is this, like, what is this patent pending you guys have? Tell us more about it, because there are so many brands coming out with Kevlar paddles. It's like, how's that going to play between all the brands? And so I'm very curious about this patent you guys have in the works. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Braydon. So, it is. We have patent pending, and this patent should cover the usage of Kevlar surfaces on a paddle surface. So it's like Kevlar fibers, I should say, on a paddle surface or even surface structure. This is basically what it should cover. And as well as it should cover, I believe, the process we use, the manufacturing process of this, like pill ply. So this one should be covered in this patent as well. So now it's still pending. It will be, it's in the reviewing stage, and this is basically like what we are trying to.
That is so fascinating to me. Like, I love that you guys did that, and it could potentially pay big dividends in the future. I mean, like if Selkirk's trying to make like a Kevlar paddle and you guys eventually get this patent approved, there's going to be some involvement there. I just thought, like, I'm just seeing Kevlar like more and more, and I thought that was an interesting kind of wrinkle and how that plays out. And I guess I don't know a ton about patents, but like it seems funny to me that you can patent something like that, like carbon fiber. Like, could it have somebody have patented carbon fiber as a facing material a few years ago?
I believe yes. I believe yes. I mean, the company who first brought it up to the market, they could have done it.
But
And I
because they
believe they
didn't,
now they regret a lot. But
so,
yeah,
I mean, you could theoretically like patent anything, right? If you're like the first one to put the patent in.
yeah, it's a tricky thing, you know. It has both. I'm first of all, I just want to make sure I'm not an expert in this area. I don't want to,
Sure.
you know, confuse you guys in this. So it's just definitely not my expertise, but uh, it's very tricky, and the way you actually describe and what it should cover, and some people can slightly change some parameters, and then they can it
So
can
even
take
if
forever.
there's just so much
Even if
nuance
the
to it.
Yeah, even if they use and copycat you, it's still gonna be very difficult to prove it. However, without that patent, it's simply impossible.
Right.
And I think one thing that's cool about patents, I don't know a lot about it either, but I was in I listened to a talk with this shoe brand, and this was really, really cool about patents. Sometimes the design and utility patent together can create something so unique and I guess differentiated that the bigger companies don't want to spend the R&D and the time to go and make it. So like the example that their company makes a slip-in shoe, and their design and utility patent is the heel that like crushes down as you put your foot in. And it's meant for people who don't like maybe have the ability to actually put their shoes on with their hands. But Nike didn't exactly want to go and try to change this and change that. They just utilized their technology in their shoe and paid for that for
So
every
like a
unit they made.
license.
Yeah, as a license. And so like they've been able to use, like I think Skechers uses it now, Nike uses it. So I think if you can, maybe this is an instance where it'll work, right? Where maybe
Yeah.
Selkirk doesn't want to go spend the R&D money. I'm using them as an example, whoever, Paddle Tech, whatever, but they may come to you and say, great, we know that you've already spent all this time. It's a little less about like, we want to go and copycat you versus we like what you've done. We'll pay you for the time and effort you've put into it. So maybe,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to move on from this and talk about the first paddle release. So this is the Proline Energy. It has a really unique shape. So it has that really long handle you mentioned. That was one of the first things you wanted to address. This is like a 6-inch long handle, but the paddle itself is 17 inches long. So it's like this extra elongated shape. So most elongated shapes, right, are like 16 and a half, but this is extra elongated at 17. You don't see this very often. It's a very unique, it's almost kind of niche in a way. And I want to hear the thought process around why you decided that paddle shape. And it's done really well for you guys. And so tell us that story.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, first of all, again, Vyman and me, we have a tennis background, and we were in the beginning trying to make a paddle that we're gonna play, we're gonna enjoy, right? And we found that actually that longer grip, it shouldn't cause a lot of problems. We did some reviews, mass distribution of the pedal, where it's going to be center of the gravity, center of the mass of the pedal, some other like key characteristic points, like many books about tennis rackets. Actually, we try to implement on it, creating pickleball pedals, like some points on the grip, and basically the data. Again, in theory, the data shows that it shouldn't cause much trouble. It's not like no zone for us. And then we decided like, why don't we give it a try? We start prototyping. We actually had like a lot of rounds of iteration, from more than 8 iteration of different samples. And finally we got the shape we enjoy with a material combination. And we believe that this pedal can be really good for people like us, for someone who really want to like have a smooth transition from tennis to pickleball. I would say that could be a good choice for them. It worked for us very well.
Yeah. Tell us your experience with it, Logan. So you came from tennis to pickleball. We talk about that quite often. What was your experience with the 17-inch length? Like, did it feel more natural to you than other models or other shapes you've tried?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, yeah, it's more natural coming from tennis, I think. So, I mean, for sure on the backhands, I mean, like you mentioned, like being able to put two hands on it comfortably was great. Um, I'd love to learn more, like from both of you, why more companies aren't utilizing the additional space they have to put longer handles on there. But maybe it's balance. You guys tell me. But anyway, um, the forehands too is something that we don't talk about a lot because we're always thinking about the two hands on the paddle. But on the forehand, I felt like the elongated aspects of it allowed me to almost like grab the ball and whip through it. And I had that extra face. And then of course, like the extra half inch or whatever helped with like overheads. Like I remember I hit one overhead and I was like, I know I hit that on top of the paddle and it was like half a ball mark at the top, you know? And so, I do think, you know, in different aspects of the game, like the extra length definitely helps. And I think a lot of people too, when you look at your paddle, like even your normal paddle, it's not that often you're hitting the edges. So I don't know. I'd like to play with it more and figure out like how often I'm even utilizing the
Yeah,
edges of
like
these
look at your
wider
ball
paddles.
pattern.
Yeah, yeah, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah, I
fun.
agree. I think some people have a tendency to hit it on the sides. Some people have a tendency to hit it more towards the tip. And if you are a person that finds yourself hitting the tip more often, like the extra half inch makes a difference, and it definitely feels better on ground strokes. Like no question, it carries through the ball better, whipping the top through. Like it feels different and it hits harder. Like I think just the shape alone adds more power to the paddle than something, I don't know, than putting other materials or something on there. But it's a pretty unique feel, and I like it. And it's surprisingly like sturdy and stable. For I thought it would be a little twistier, but it's not. It's pretty stable. I was actually playing this last week. One of his buddies I started playing with, he's probably been playing for like 6 months. He played college tennis, just phenomenal mechanics. Like I wish I looked as good as he does when I play.
Yeah.
But he plays with the Selkirk Power Air, and I was like, bro, try this. I don't see what you think. So he played a game with it, and he was like, what is this?
Yeah, right.
Feels so good. I was like, yeah, well, you're coming from like a Power Air. He's like, it feels so sturdy, and you could just rip it. And I was like, yeah. Like, anyways, he really enjoyed it. But yeah, it makes sense if you're coming from tennis, like it's an easy transition. But even if not, like if you like the extra length, it was surprisingly sturdy. Yeah. I think you guys have a winner there. Like it's just not a very common shape, and it's cool. It plays nice, and I definitely think there's a place for it.
But Tim, what do you think is like the like I love brand and the marketability of certain companies. So like what is like your bread and butter? Is it going to be more about the Kevlar or is it more about the length? Like do you think you'll come out with more Kevlar options in the future or do you think you'll go like a raw carbon fiber elongated paddle first?
I believe we're gonna keep Kevlar. I'm sorry, Kevlar as a surface, and also we might need to change or enhance something in our core.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the area we're gonna work on. Actually, working right now, and yeah, and also we would like to improve its spin, the surface area of the spin. This is something also there is a lot of room for improvement on this too. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. I feel like people
Parameters.
like the guy that I handed the paddle to on Thursday, the first thing, and I think people do this too, they pick up a paddle and they kind of rub their hands on the face. And it's funny too, because some paddles are a little like less gritty to the touch and yours is very gritty to the touch. And I think that's part of your, maybe your peel apply process, but
Yeah,
you think you can actually improve upon the spin aspect of
yeah.
the paddle?
Yes, yes, it is. It is. It can
Okay.
be improved. Yeah.
So it sounds like he's got one in his back pocket. He's ready to pull out. He's like,
Yeah, he's gonna have one of those
just
like
wait.
25
You just wait.
grit. You know, it's gonna be really, really high on the spectrum from MLP. They're gonna be afraid of Tim.
And okay, last question for you before we let you go. Quiet paddles has been a topic recently. The quiet paddle category. Do you guys have any plans to mess around in that zone?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And actually improving the core can help with it as well. I'm not saying that like there could be a different structure, but improving the core could help to make it like not that loud, economics pedal.
Yeah, actually, it'll be funny to see what you do. Like when I think core, like I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I'm like, I have like a hard time imagining like, what are you going to do differently? Like, I know you could change like the cell sizes and you can do things like, thicknesses and quality of the polymer, but are you thinking like non-polymer materials or just doing
Yeah,
something?
I mean, not only materials, but I might be wrong when I say like core, but also like the manufacturing process itself, and yeah, and cell size. Yes, you can change the cell size as
Something
well.
like
Yeah,
that.
fine combination. Yeah.
Well, cool, Tim. We really appreciate you hopping on. I enjoyed our conversation. I hope you did too. I felt like we put you on the hot seat in a couple of moments, and
No,
you
it's
weren't sure
good.
what to do with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I just try my best to answer all your questions.
Yeah, you did great. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
you guys are leading the charge with Kevlar. You guys, popularized it, and I see you guys as the leaders there. And so it's fun to hear, your take on Kevlar, how it differentiates from what else is out there. So it was fun chatting with you.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
All right, awesome. Well, that was fun. Tim seems like a solid dude. If anyone is interested in Pickleball Ace paddles, use the code 10effect. I have some links to their stuff in the description. They got 2 paddles right now. So they got their extra elongated one and then the new hybrid shape they call the S. They're both solid. I'll be releasing a full review of those soon. But that was interesting. Any takeaways or thoughts from you on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel kind of dumb, but I really thought that Kevlar was a stiffer material. I really
did
felt when I was
too.
hitting the ball, it was stiffer, but I guess
Yeah.
I'm mistaken. But
I actually, in our last pod, I was like, it's a stiffer material. I was like touting this, but I did some more research afterwards, after our last pod, and then he kind of confirmed what I found. But yeah, Kevlar is actually less stiff than carbon fiber, which is kind of how I explain fiberglass. And fiberglass is more powerful, more poppy than carbon fiber. So I think Kevlar kind of sits in between those two. Is a good way to think of it, like performance wise. It's kind of a mix between carbon fiber and fiberglass, but it is interesting that they intertwine Kevlar with carbon fiber, and so it kind of mutes some of the characteristics of Kevlar, but not completely. Yeah. It does feel and play a little different. But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think also too, like it'll be really. What's really interesting is he said they tested, and maybe it was just internal testing, whatever, but like the difference in going full Kevlar versus Kevlar and carbon fiber together was kind of a mute point. Like it wasn't that much of a difference or a delta. So with this new Ruby coming on board, which one of the
from 6-0,
yeah, like an ambassador of 6-0 was at the courts today and had some demos, and people were playing with the Ruby, and people were saying they really liked it. I didn't get to play with it, unfortunately, but I'm curious if people who were to put those two head to head, are they really going to feel much of a difference in the face or not? So.
Yeah, that's a question I'm going to answer with the review of that. So that I've got both. I've been hitting with the Ruby and the Pickleball Apes. So I have the answer, but I'm going to save that for the reviews.
I love that. Little teaser.
Whoosh.
We need some. I gotta bring the whooshes back.
Yeah,
or we determined it was a whoosh or a hoosh.
Whoosh. W-H.
W. Okay.
O-O-S-H. But yeah, that was cool. But now I want to dive into the quiet category, this new quiet category for paddles. So USA Pickleball made an announcement a little while ago that they're going to introduce this new quiet category for paddles. There's an interest. Yeah, don't tell anyone about this. This is secret stuff.
There's quiet. That's what it means. Stay quiet about this category.
Yeah. That's I was following. That's what I was saying.
Okay, good. Got it.
I was there, Logan.
Good. It's all good.
But the interest here is that paddles are loud. There's lots of complaints about it, so they want to tone that down and just make the game a little more friendly for clubs, community environments, because we do see a lot of home communities with paddle or with courts and stuff.
Courts, yeah.
And then there's like the clubs, right? So like there's a club here in Boise where the courts are like right next to tee box number 3, and it's loud.
Sure.
And golfers don't like noise, as we know.
Yeah. Throws off their swing.
Yeah. It does, bro. Do you golf?
No.
Don't even joke about it. Logan. But so they just said they're introducing it. They didn't really tell us what that means exactly, other than there's going to be quieter paddles. And so They finally released like the specifications or like what this category is to all the manufacturers or the brands out there. And then at the same time, our very first brand came out with the release of the very first approved quiet paddle. And so there's some controversy around the release of this brand being around the same time.
Would it be pickleball without some drama?
No,
I mean, really?
dude, it is impossible. It cannot be done.
Right.
But
so tell us about it. What's the drama?
The drama is that this brand was released very near the time that all the brands were made aware of how they can get certified for these quiet paddle categories. And they're like, okay, how did this brand already have a paddle certified? How do they already know how to, make a paddle that fits the qualifications? And so the company's called Owl, and like there's a bunch of big names behind it, right? We got Drew Brees, John McEnroe, like
Johnny
of all
Mac.
people, like promote, like they're going on like a media tour for this thing.
You can't be serious.
Is
it Johnny Mac impression? Sorry.
Okay, very good, very good.
Somebody will catch on to that.
Somebody will.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Anyway, so people are like, wait a minute, something's fishy here. Like, how did these guys get approved so fast? And then like USA Pickleball is like promoting this brand too. Like they made like a post and like made a big deal of the release of Owl. It's almost like USA Pickleball is like invested in this brand somehow. We're not going to dive too much into it, but it was fishy that all that kind of transpired at the same time. Don't know any hard facts. That's just kind of like looking at the stars and seeing how they were fitting. But with the release, so they did release like what a quiet paddle is. So I'm going to talk about that. So there's two new categories. There's the quiet paddle category, and then there's like the noise reduced competition category. So the noise reduced competition category, in order to get certified for this, your paddle has to be below a certain, like noise level, but still fit within the standards of the current like rules to make paddles. So that's the first category. And then the second category is the quiet category. And it's like they say it's like a 50% reduction in noise is what they're shooting for to get a paddle qualified for this. And they do relax some of the specifications of the current paddle specs to get approved in order to reach this level of quietness. And so I was reading these new like relaxed specifications, and I don't know I tried to find it, but I don't know what like the original specifications are for like deflection and those things. So I can't say like what the difference is exactly. Yeah. But there is some sort of new specification around deflection, and they're allowed to put holes in the paddle.
Wait, so kind of like this diadem that was like not allowed, maybe allowed now, you're thinking?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay.
And so they gave like a new measure of what the deflection could be, and I tried to find like the standard like actual measurement to see what the difference was, and I couldn't. It wasn't easy to compare, but because they said that there's a new rule around deflection, I'm just assuming that it means more deflection. Like if you use like a foam material to absorb the sound better or something, they're going to allow it to deflect a little more. Is what I'm guessing.
Anyone would almost be open to that, right? More deflection, more power.
But the kicker is, if you're in the quiet category, you can't use that in competition.
Oh, it's the competition quiet or the quiet.
Yeah, so there's a competition quiet and the quiet. So
got it.
I want to like, do you like this quiet paddle category? Like, is that really needed? Like, are places gonna like require you to use a quiet paddle, do you think? Or is this noise like reduced competition category going to be more heavily implemented at like clubs or home communities or something? What do you think?
I think it's a disaster, but that's fine. I got blasted in the last video in the comments section for saying that USAP or PPA or whoever the entity is could kind of force players into playing with maybe one specific paddle. But the more you differentiate here between what you can play, where you can play it, and when you can play with it, it's just going to become really messy, because like, am I going to change paddles because I'm hitting at your club when I would come to visit you versus what I'm going to play in my tournament versus what I'm going to play at my home court? Like, no. But like, if the USAPA or USA Pickleball, USAPA, if they're going to be the ones who continue to stand as the testing and setting like the rules and regulations around paddles, then I think you need to create something in unison with all of pickleball to say, our goal is to reduce noise, and now all manufacturers need to adhere to X. Because otherwise, I don't see why I would want to go play with this owl, which is just like felt covered.
Yeah, it
paddle.
looks
Looks like they just put felt all over it.
I just about bought one, and then I was like, I'm not sure. I might still buy one.
But I mean, but even if you did, I think it's a super respectful, especially if I put one in my backyard and I'm like, which I'm pretty close to my neighbors, 20 feet. I'm sure it would be pretty annoying if you're trying to sit on your porch and like enjoy a quiet day. So I'm empathetic to that, but I just don't want to use a different paddle in every situation that I'm in. I don't want to go use that in my backyard and use something different at the public court and then something different at the tournament. It just, in my opinion, needs to be like one big effort if that's what they want to achieve. If they want to achieve quieter pickleball.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Because, and I think the quiet paddle category does break it apart. Like you said, like if this place only requires quiet paddles, like I'm not even going to go play there because I don't want to have two different paddles. But this noise reduced category I think is fascinating. And you can have a competition paddle that's still quieter. I imagine a lot of brands are going to go after this certification and find some way to make their paddles a little quieter or come out with a line that has those that certification, because it is one, you can use it in tournaments and it meets all the standards, so you don't have to swap paddles. Like they can just be your paddle. And I think that clubs and other places will have an easier time enforcing that. Like, okay, look, you just have to have a noise reduced certified paddle to play here. It's like, okay, I'm still going to play. I'm going to use the same brand I have, just go get their certified version. And like that, I feel like that's more enforceable than saying you have to go play with a paddle that's completely different than anything else out there in order to play here. I think that'll deter people more than the noise reduced like enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying that too, it made me think of something. My opinion stands, but I think that they should try to do this in a longer time window. Like I like what they're doing now. It's fine. This is step one, stage one. But like, as an example, Formula One has a goal by 2030 to be what they call net zero carbon. It's not carbon neutral, but it's like the amount of carbon they're putting out against the amount they're saving is supposed to net out to zero. It could be interesting for them to tell manufacturers by like 2026, our goal is to be at this decibel level. And you need to be making strides every year if you want to continue competing in USAPA approved tournaments. If your paddle's going to be present, you need to show us every year that you're making strides to that new sound level that we're
that's interesting. Then it's just the same across the board. There's not like different types or
like we categories. We strive to be less obnoxious, right?
Yeah, that makes more sense, and it's probably more doable for brands because it takes time to research and figure this out, because you want to keep the same performance level. Like if these noise reduced paddles don't perform the same as the louder ones, I don't want to play with it.
And you're putting a lot of pressure on brands to try to like you said, a lot of brands will be chasing the competition quiet paddle, but that is a distraction from potentially making the best paddle possible to push the sport forward.
Yeah, I like your approach to it, but that makes more sense to me, and it seems more plausible and doable for everyone. But it seems like USAP is just in a race to get things quieter. I mean, there's been noise complaint. Like this is a common theme that comes up in the news, right? It's like the loud noise. And so they're obviously trying to address this as quickly as possible, which is probably why they implemented this like really quick change with a short timeline. They're even offering incentives. So I learned that if you send a paddle in to get approved, it normally costs $1,500 to get a paddle approved, which I thought was insane.
Wow.
Like we had talked about in a previous pod where there was about 800 paddles that were approved this year. Like what's 800? We'll just say 1,000 for simplicity. Like what's that times 1,500? Like that's 1.5 million. That's a decent chunk of change. And that's just the approved paddles. So like this quiet category, like if you send a paddle in, it gets denied. You have to pay the fee again to get a new paddle tested. Anyways, they're running a promotion where if you submit a paddle to get approved for the quiet category, this isn't they don't have any promotions for the reduced noise. It's just the quiet category.
Yeah.
But it's only going to cost $750 for a few months if you send a paddle, but it's only for a few months. Like maybe they've been doing R&D longer, but like they're just now getting the specs of what the paddle needs to be to get certified. So it doesn't feel like they have a very big window to take advantage of this promotion to go get a paddle certified for this category. So, but they're definitely pushing it, and they want paddles to go this direction.
Well, what's your opinion from the player standpoint? Like, if you were going to go out, let's say Selkirk comes out with this paddle, do you think that anyone is going to pick a paddle in consideration of the noise versus performance?
Yes, if my neighborhood has that as like a rule, like if the homeowner association has a rule that says your paddle must be in the noise reduced category approved, then I have to. And if you're in a club, that's going to
be a thing soon.
The only way I think this takes off is if it's enforced at the club level or the community or park level. Like if the cities enforce, if they start hearing, I mean, I imagine there's going to be some communication to everyone who manages courts across the world. Like, this is a new category. This is a new option. So that if it gets enforced, then obviously you're going to have to do that. But from a performance perspective, like I said earlier, like if the paddle doesn't perform as well, I don't want to play it. I don't like when you're playing, the sound doesn't bother you. It's just when you live nearby, right? But I want the best paddle I can play with. And if the performance is reduced as a result of trying to achieve this this quieter sound, then I think it's a bummer.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It sounds like a tough ask.
The other interesting thing is for this quiet category, like there's also balls. Like there's going to be balls that are approved for the quiet category, and I've heard some people say it's like, like why not just alter the ball first rather than focusing on paddles? There seems to be an emphasis around paddles more than the ball for the quiet category, at least. That seems like an easier win, right? But maybe the ball changes the game more than like a paddle does. Because like if in order to make the ball quieter, like is it going to have to be softer and slower?
I don't know. I still have this idea that I think we should go out and play with green dot tennis ball and see what happens.
What's a green dot tennis ball?
It's like a 50% deflated tennis ball. So it shouldn't be that much slower, to be honest. I mean, a little bit, I guess, but like it has some weight to it. So you put some weight behind it with your paddle, you're going to get some oomph out of it. But there's also like a heavier foam ball they use for teaching tennis. And I feel like that could be an interesting, just for fun, because that could be like a starting point for a quiet ball. Not to say everyone needs to change pickleball to a 50% deflated tennis ball, but if that's the starting point to decide, okay, we're a little too slow, we're a little too fast, or it doesn't feel right, you start to just kind of play around. Because I'm with you that I think the ball could be a better place than.
It seems like an easier way to address the sound, but then we kind of run into some of the same issues with paddles, right? Like if this is the ball I'm using in tournaments, if it doesn't perform as well as a regular ball, like I don't want to play with it.
Let me throw this at you. I agree. But like you were saying, who is going to care about this quiet category? And you said, okay, well, if the courts have to then implement, whether it be a community or a public court or maybe even like your private indoor court. They say it's way too loud in here. Now we have to implement quiet paddles. It would be a lot easier for you to walk in the door at your private pickleball courts, and they say the only ball allowed in this building is this ball.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Than trying to enforce what paddle you walk in with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's much easier to enforce. That makes sense. Yeah, so easier implementation. Like that's another benefit for just altering the ball rather than the paddle. But there's more money in paddles. People are going to make, like, brands are interested in the money.
So now, are you thinking that USAPA is just trying to get that $1,500 more often?
Maybe, I don't know.
Category.
They're doing promotions and they're pushing it. They want brands to get this, but yeah, they make a killing off of these paddle testings.
Kudos to them, I suppose.
Maybe we should make here's a new business idea. Send us $200. We will test your paddle, see if it pass. If it pass, then you go pay the $1,500 to get it passed by USAP. Then you don't have to spend $3,000 if you fail. So we'll tell you if you pass or fail. Yeah.
Here's another business idea. What if we just replace the USAPA? I mean, does anybody really need that?
What if yes, I would follow you, Logan. I would follow you.
I mean, what do these guys do? Come on. I'm trying to change my paddle. Get out of town.
That'll finish there for the quiet category. I just think it's fascinating. It'll be interesting to see what follows there. But I do know that there are a couple other companies that are going to introduce some quiet paddles here soon. One of them is utilizing like a rubber rather than that felt. Like it'll be interesting to see what materials come out, because there was another like specification relaxation around roughness. I wasn't sure if it was they're allowed paddles to be more rough. I don't know. It was kind of weird why that would affect the sound, like the roughness testing. But that was another like rule they relaxed. I'm not really sure, how it was in relation to the original standards, but those are the three things they said you could mess with or change versus standard specs, was like the roughness, deflection, and then adding holes to the paddle. But we'll see what comes out of it. But let's finish with what's upcoming in the pro scene. Tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, so we got the PPA Finals coming up this Thursday.
That's this week.
Yeah, November 30th. I mean, really, we're gonna have like 5 full days of pickleball. So we're gonna get, or am I doing the math right? We're gonna have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, because Monday and Tuesday is MLP.
Oh, baby,
in San Clemente. So
just that's a final too, right? So it'll be final.
Yeah. So this PPA coming up, what's going to be different here? I don't think they've ever done this before. Maybe they have, and we just weren't paying attention. But essentially, we've taken the top players by point totals, right, in their respective categories. So we have the top singles players, the top mixed doubles, and then gender doubles. And so, like, for example, not to discount their playability, but because Colin Johns plays with Ben Johns, he has a lot of points in men's doubles, and therefore is a top men's doubles player. So the top players in each category had the chance to almost do like a live draft of sorts. Of the other players that made
that's fascinating.
Yeah. So you want to hear some of the, I mean, none of these are like that crazy, but as we get to the bottom of the list, you might think of some different matchups here. So in the women's side, I think you have your standard. You have your Anna Lee and Catherine. You have your Callie, Joe Smith, and Lucy Kovalova. Anna Bright decided to play with Vivian David, which I'm not sure if they play that often. That kind of stuck out to me, but she was the second pick too. Anna Bright was, and chose Vivian David there. But you're going to have, I think, an interesting one here is going to be Leia Jansen and Jade Kawamoto.
Okay.
Megan Dazan and Georgia Johnson could be interesting. And then like a sleeper pick might be like Irina Terashenko and Yana Newell, who will be playing together. So
how many teams qualify, or how many players?
We have 8 on the it should be 8 in every category, actually.
So 16 males, 16 females.
Yeah. So we have 8 teams coming through, and then on the singles, it's also 8. Yeah. So top 8.
Oh, so you qualify for doubles and or singles. So there could be some, like, is there a male player or a female player in the singles division that's not playing doubles?
Yeah, there should be multiple. Like I think Connor Garnett for sure didn't make doubles. Let me just double check that that's true.
But he's in singles? Although
Yeah,
he's been
like Connor
he
Garnett
killed
did
it the
not
second
make.
half of the year.
Yeah, didn't make it though. Didn't have enough points. So like Pablo and Fed are both in singles and
Probably
doubles.
Joseph. Is he in the singles?
Still, I think you had to get a lot of points here. No, so singles has been Connor, Christian, Jay, Fed, Tyson, JW, and Pablo.
Jay was in there. That kind of surprises me. I feel like he's had a really bad year.
Yeah, maybe it's maybe it's a back half. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was doing better. It's like such a long season.
Yeah.
I need to like go back through and actually look at
Like maybe January, February, he was medaling every time or something.
Yeah, like what was happening in the first half of the year, because I can hardly remember last month.
But I guess if you're consistently winning, 1-2 rounds, you're probably racking up the points every tournament.
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting, I think we also miss a lot of third. We talk about it on the podcast, luckily, but we as viewers miss a lot of the third place, right? So if you're getting third, you're still getting some decent points. Even fourth is getting some points. So
Gotcha.
you don't see that as a viewer. But yeah, I think we talked about it. This is your favorite style of tournament, which is going to be a little different for people, but it's pool play. So there's 2 pools for every single bracket. So whether it's singles, mixed, or gender doubles,
and then top 2 teams from each pool advance to a playoff, I'd imagine. Yeah. I think it's okay. I think pool play is okay for this scenario because the teams are ranked and they're ranked accurately. So you're going to have the appropriate teams in each pool, which I think is fine. But like in an amateur event scenario where if you have 2 pools of 4 teams, it's more random. Like you could potentially have 4 of the best teams in the same pool. And that's part of the reason I don't like pool play at the amateur level. But in this scenario, like where we have accurate ratings, I don't think the pool play is as bad.
Yeah, I would tend to agree there. It's like the from the men's side too, the first pool is actually pretty stacked. It's Ben Johns, Colin Johns, Matt Wright, James Ignatowicz, Tyson McGuffin, Deckel Barr, Julian Arnold, AJ Kohler, which I would imagine Julian Arnold, AJ Kohler being the worst out of that group. And the second group, which is going to be like Riley Newman chose Thomas Wilson. He could have chosen AJ Kohler in this scenario, or Deckel, or Jay even, but he's played with AJ Kohler before, but he decided to go with Thomas Wilson. And so you've got J-Dub, Dylan, Riley Newman, Thomas Wilson, Fed and Pablo together, and then DJ and Jay together. And so like the top 3 out of that's going to be pretty tough to get out of. I think DJ and Jay are probably going to be the bottom there.
Yeah, that is fascinating. This like drafting style is funny to me. Like it's like this, recess playground rules. Like I'm sure there were some feelings hurt. It's like where AJ's like, what the heck, Riley? Why did you pick me? Kind of deal.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think we saw Matt and James play before, and so Matt picked up James. I don't know what 2024 looks like, or if they've decided tournaments to play together, but I'd like to see more of that too. I think it'd be fun.
What are the women matchups or pools?
Yeah. Let's do women, and then I'll get into mixed. I guess we talked about women's. What I meant there is for the women's side, let's pay attention to Megan Dazan, Georgia Johnson. I think Anna Bright, Vivian David could be interesting, but I also think that Leah Jansen and Jade Kawamoto are the ones to look out for on the women's side.
Yeah,
and then on the mixed, you have your standard, right? Annalie Waters and Ben Johns, of course. Riley chose to play with Vivian. Anna Bright and James, of course, which I think should be a good matchup.
So he picked Vivian over Anna Bright.
Yeah, Anna, that's weird. Like, I wonder if they just decided, like, or if someone's talking to somebody else, like Anna's like, hey, listen, I want to play with James. Because these matchups are pretty standard. It's like Anna Bright and James, Georgia and JW. It gets a little like different.
Talk to each other beforehand.
Yeah, I don't know. It's now that you're bringing it up, because like Catherine Parento is playing with Thomas Wilson instead of Tyson, and Tyson's playing with Leah Jansen.
It is fun that it's different matchups though. Like this will be very entertaining. So they're doing the pool play starting. What day did you say it started?
Should be starting Thursday.
So it starts Thursday normal. So I'll be Thursday. through Sunday,
through
and
the
then MLP
3rd,
Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, 30th through the 3rd. It should be Thursday to Sunday.
So there's probably more money on the line.
Yeah, money is not like this whole thing, I feel like, has been under promoted. And I apologize for not having more information about how this draft went, but I don't even think there was like a live stream or a live update of the draft or like a really good way to understand what the selection was. I just like they put up a blog post, and so that's where I went and got my information.
Yeah, you make a great point. Like that could have been really interesting to follow that along. I mean, granted, this was like Thanksgiving week. I wasn't paying as close attention to the news, as I normally am. But maybe I wonder, maybe they didn't really promote it. It sounds like it didn't really come up.
I don't know. I think this year's been kind of funky. I think this entire finals deal was a bit just like an afterthought of sorts. I think they just thought about it at the end of the season, because I feel like a month ago was when you first started hearing the announcers talk about it. Oh, and just so you know, they're got to finish their points. This really matters for the finals. And they're like, the finals? What is this again? And they're like, I don't know. I feel like I don't feel that bad about not knowing it, considering like Jimmy Miller was like, yeah, no one knows what this is. So I feel like if he's telling you don't know what it is, it's okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then is MLP finals, is that different? That's different than like normal MLP events, right? Like this is, you have to qualify for it. They're just doing like a semifinal, final kind of thing. It's not like a pool play like normal.
Yeah, exactly. There's only a handful of teams that were invited, and apparently they're giving away free tickets. So if you can get yourself to San Clemente, it's free. So,
all right. Let's get ourselves to San Clemente.
I know. That'd be fun. I think it's literally, Monday, Tuesday is tough too. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a really odd day. I mean, you think they're doing it right because they just finished their tournament. The players are there.
Yeah.
They're just piggybacking,
but I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be good. And like you said in the last podcast, like we have Miami and Chicago Slice. I think it'll be interesting to see like how that plays out. And Chicago Slice has been wishy-washy, right? Like we saw Ben Johns lose a lot more the last MLP than we would expect from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you and I are both in agreement that we think DC is still probably the best team out there, but they're playing Orlando Squeeze. So it'll be fun.
Well, there you have it. Plenty of pickleball to watch this week.
Oh yeah. We'll be up to date, and by next Tuesday we'll be giving you the synopsis.
Well, that'll be kind of interesting because we record on Sundays, so maybe we'll have to record later after the MLP event or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we could do a little segment on Tuesday night or something. I don't know, maybe we release on a Wednesday. That'd be wild.
Oh man, people are gonna go nuts.
Watch out.
They're not ready for this. All right, good deal. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you as always. Logan, you're the best.
You too, man. Love you.
All right, see you, dude.
Later.